This is Jackson Cooperman. This is my audio commentary for my short film, Hold. So this idea came to me when I was trying to think of something incredibly simple to shoot. I had a deadline for my college's film festival in about 3 or 4 weeks before I made this, and I had to come up with something really quick and easy to make. So I just decided to write a one-actor film. I've seen a lot of great one-actor movies. There's this movie called Buried from 2010 with Ryan Reynolds, and the entire film basically takes place with him buried inside a coffin, and that's the whole movie. And it never gets boring. He drives the whole thing. There's this Robert Altman film called Secret Honor, starring Philip Baker Hall, and the whole movie is basically a 90-minute monologue. So I wanted to make something like that, smaller scale, takes place in this elevator with one actor, and I cast Colton Parrish in this movie. He's, in my opinion, one of the best actors in the entire department at my college, and I personally think this is one of his best screen performances to date. I think he did a really good job in this movie. But a lot of people laughed at this idea of a guy stuck in an elevator, but for me personally, it's a pretty scary thing. I've never been stuck in one, but I have a fear of elevators, and that's why I wanted to make this movie. And I really wanted to show the dynamic of what a person goes through if they're stuck in the elevator. They try the alarm, they try their phone, they do all the right things basically, but none of it works. So it really shows the breakdown of what that character is going to go through, that he's just stuck in this little box. And shot this on a lot of wide angles like this one. Coming up here, there's this part where he's looking at the four corners of the elevator, and we cut the POV shots of those. That's actually a subtle reference to an Alfred Hitchcock movie called The Wrong Man. There's a scene where an innocent man played by Henry Fonda is standing in a jail cell, and he's just kind of examining his prison, having the feeling of being trapped. And that's what I was drawing to from here. He's just accepting the feeling. Then we get this nice little segue here where he comes up with the idea to get better reception. Now on this high angle shot, I was actually standing on a chair holding the camera in the elevator, and I was holding the camera all the way right up to the ceiling. This was as high as I could possibly get it. And then we have this little moment, this nice little moment where he just kind of sinks down into the corner, and the camera is practically on a bird's eye shot of him just looking straight down on a wide angle. This was like a 24, I think, and it's just kind of representing his feeling of hopelessness and how he feels so small and powerless in this environment. So I was the only crew member on this entire project. I did literally everything except for the acting. And I wanted to basically, in film school they tell you you have to follow these steps to make a movie. I wanted to prove that you can make a good film by doing the whole thing by yourself on the lowest possible budget, which was actually $0 for this. I didn't pay for anything except for time on this. And I only recorded camera sound, but obviously that's not usable sound, so every single thing you hear on the soundtrack is all done in post. The fluorescent lights, the dialogue, I had him record off of my cell phone, his ADR. The footsteps you hear, the phone ringing, all of that is all ADR. It's all post sound. And that's the portion that took forever. The picture took about a day to put together. The sound took about 3 weeks to put together. It's a lot of work. And I also shot this film in the 2:35 aspect ratio to just kind of also represent that kind of feeling of claustrophobia, making the screen a little more crunched of space. And I think it really works well here. And I also desaturated a lot of the color in post. Like, the color palette for this movie is mostly just like a brownish gray white color. I don't know what exactly you call that color, but just to represent kind of the blandness and just kind of sadness that this character is going through right now. And a lot of black and whites on the color palette. I think it works really well. I also very subtly added in the a little shadow on the corners of the frame. You can see it a little bit more on the bottom, but it just kind of adds in this little subtle cinematic effect where after you start watching the movie for a while, you don't really notice it that much, but it's just kind of there to give it that cinematic feel. And on this shoot, I practically used just about every single shot that I took on set for the edit, because the way they teach us to do shots is they teach us, you typically start with a master shot, then you go to close-ups, then you go to wider shots, then you go to this, that, so on and so on. The way I shoot a film is kind of different. Before I start shooting, I already know exactly what the final edit's going to look like. I mean, I've honestly already seen the movie. I already know exactly what I need, so I go in and I shoot strictly for the edit. Like, I shoot every single shot that I'm going to edit with, and that saves a lot of time. Like, if I know I'm not going to need a master for this scene, I don't shoot a master, because I know I'm not going to use it in the end. And it's just a really good time saver. A lot of people don't like my way of doing that, but, you know, that's just me.
How's the right time?
So, the majority of the shots in this movie are handheld. The only ones that aren't are the opening two. The first one's a dolly shot, as well as the second one. And then the final four are all static shots, just on sticks. And it's a really subtle shift, but the reason I do that is when the elevator stops, it switches to handheld. It's kind of shifting from his peaceful, unhappy world to all of a sudden he's thrown in this situation, and now his life is all shaky, and he's upset, and he has to figure out a way out. So when we come back to the picture, you'll notice very subtly that it's back on a static shot again. I really love the power of black in a movie. I really love doing like voiceover over black. It's a really epic trick to use because it really gets the audience to use their imagination. Because when you don't see an image, you just have to imagine what's going on there. And your imagination is at times even more powerful than anything you can show on camera. So I love doing over black in a movie. It's just a great technique. This eulogy was just a sample eulogy that I actually printed out offline. So I didn't write that thing. But this shot to me is probably my favorite shot in the whole movie. We didn't use any lighting for this. This was all just natural elevator lighting, whatever we had. And this shot to me came out perfectly. I think this is my favorite shot. That beautiful like backing white light in there, that light on his face, it just works perfect. So I actually consider turning Hold into a possible feature-length film. I'm considering writing it into a script because we made this movie on $0. Could make a full-length version of it for a really cheap cost. And I would just love the challenge of it, trying to have 90 minutes of just a character stuck in an elevator and just show the dynamic of what really happens to a person when they're stuck in one place for that long, and just show what kind of a breakdown they're going to go through. So I consider doing that. And I'm very happy with this film. I consider this an improvement over Happy Birthday. Although that one's more fun to watch, this one is, in my opinion, a better film.